I don't think I have a problem.
Oh, you stop breathing. I hear you. Sometimes I'll touch you to make sure you breathe it. Yes. You would need a CPAP.
Well, si vous êtes paré, on va go ahead et commencer. I got a couple of little announcements to make. Let's see. The 20th of this month, le 20. Ça va être d'ici un mercredi. It'll be Wednesday, the 20th of this month, which is a couple of weeks from now. We're going to go to the Ellington nursing home. The people asked us, and we were going to kind of put it off and wait a little while, but the people there are really anxious for us to go. So we said, okay. I told them, yeah, we'll go ahead and go. So that's going to be at the Ellington. I'm sure everybody knows where that is. And that's going to be, we're going to start same time like we start our French table at 9:30. So instead of having our French table the following day, we'll just have the French table over there. And we don't know how it's going to work, but we'll have a bunch of chairs and tables around there, and what we'll try to do is try to mix in with some of the residents to where we can kind of help them out or whatever. Yes, ma'am.
Wednesday the 20th, Elderberry's will have a Christmas party.
A Christmas party. Okay.
At the hall.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right.
To be catered by people.
Oh, wow, that's a good place there.
We ought to all go there.
Well, sure, we should. The Christmas party, you mean get together? We need to do that. Maybe next week we'll talk about when we can have it, when we want to do it. Or maybe we'll do it next
I
week.
thought we had decided we were doing it
Next week. Oh, okay, good. All right.
What day is that? 14th.
They'll be on the 14th.
What are we
Okay.
doing on the 14th?
We're gonna have our quarterly get together.
All right, where?
Chef Roy's.
Okay.
The last time was at the Mexican place. So
Okay,
this
so
time it'll be
that's
at Chef Roy. And
After the meeting.
that'll be after our get together. Yeah, after our get together. And let's see. Probably it'll be about 11:30 or so, somewhere around there. Okay. And Saturday I'm going to be in Crowley doing a book talk. So y'all all invited to come over there if y'all want to. You don't have to buy a book.
At the library?
At the library, yeah. And like I said, if you want to come, have a PowerPoint presentation, and you don't have to buy a book. You just come over if you would like to. Okay, ça fait. David, if you're ready, we're ready, my friend.
Il dit allons.
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 Aren't y'all proud of me?
Yeah.
Okay, there's two things I can say in French. Allons and bonjour, bonsoir,
Are you la chambre à bain?
a cute petite fille. Huh? Did I do it all right?
Are you ready, Dave? Are you la chambre à bain?
Oh, man,
Where's
my
the
hearing's
bathroom?
not that good.
Where's the bathroom? You might have to know
Boy,
that.
there ain't nobody needs to know that better than me. That's right. Okay, well, I always enjoy coming to Rayne, Louisiana. It's always a thrill. The first time I came, I went to your French table in that beautiful house. Yeah, are y'all still meeting there?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, that was such a pleasure. And I could see why someone would be proud of that place, because that's like going back in time. And it reminds me of my relatives, and that's why I do what I'm doing with the story of Bobby Charles, because he came from Abbeville, Louisiana, which all of you know, but so is my mother from Abbeville, Louisiana. And my daddy was from Mo, Louisiana. Now, when I traveled with the service company all over the United States, I would talk to them, and when they found out I'm from Louisiana, some of them would say, "Oh, Louisiana, we want to go to Louisiana. We want to go to New Orleans."
Yes.
And I never would be negative about it, but I would always say, if you're going to do that, don't spend your whole time there. You need to come to the greatest part of Louisiana, and that's southwest Louisiana. And they look at me and say, why? Well, it's very easy. Once you get there, you'll understand, but you got the best food, the friendliest people, the best music, and good-looking women.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Not
that's right.
necessarily in
That's
that
right.
order.
But it's true. It is. It's the absolute truth. And I'm so glad that when I was young, we didn't live in Louisiana. We lived in Texas. And my daddy, in the late 30s, there wasn't a lot of work around here, so he had to go to Freeport, Texas. So we enjoyed our stay in Freeport, but thank God he got transferred to Louisiana. So we got the chance to come back to this part of the world. And there is no better part of the world. Southwest Louisiana is the best. It's the very best. And one time I went to a concert in New Orleans, and it was one of the biggest concerts ever. It was at the fairgrounds. And the Eagles band was playing, so everybody was trying to get in there. And I saw this couple. My brother and I had gotten there real early, so we had a little spot with a tent umbrella. And I could feel for them because they had waited too long, and they were like in a panic mood, where are they going to go to be able to see it? So I caught the guy's attention, and I told him to come over, and I showed him a little bit of space on the side of us, so he and his wife did. And as we waited for the show, we started talking. This fella and his wife travel the world listening to music. They love music. And so I asked him after a while, I said, have you ever been to the festival Acadien? And he says, no, but he said, that sounds French. I said, well, it should be. And I said, if you ever get a chance, you should go to that, because you'll find what I just got finished saying. The friendliest people. I mean, the people Cajuns want you to come to their place. They want you to enjoy yourself. So they welcome you. And I told him that. And I told him about the food. And I told him about the dancing and the good music. So a year later, I'm at my house on a Saturday morning. About 7 o'clock, the phone rings. And this guy says, is this David Faulk? And I said, yes, sir, it is. He said, this is George. He was from Boulder, Colorado. He and his wife were in town, and he called me to let me know he was going to the festival in Acadien. And I had not planned on going that day. I was going to go the next day. But I said, if he's there, I'm going to go down there and get him lined up. And I did. And then I saw him the next day. And then he called me Monday. And I said, man, you still here? Oh, yeah. He said, I decided I need to buy one of those accordions. I said, really? Do you play? No, but he says, I got one in my closet back in Boulder. And he said, one of these days I'm going to learn how to play. But I saw Joel Saunier playing, and I saw what he was playing, so I had to have me one. So he was at Martin's. And he said, Mr. Faulk, I want to tell you something. Everything you said about this festival and in this part of the world is true. We've never been treated as nicely as your folks have treated us. So he said, I just wanted to call you and tell you, you didn't exaggerate. Everything you said was true, and thank you very much. And now, that's what you're supposed to do.
That's right.
You know, that's what we all are supposed to do. Anyway, I'm thrilled to be able to be over here and do what I enjoy doing, and that's some stories about Bobby Charles. And what's so interesting about him, and I know maybe some of you have heard this, but I've enjoyed doing this. By the way, the first time that I ever did this Bobby Charles was at the Hospice of Acadien, where we meet with the memories. And through my good friend William, he said, you know, we talked about Bobby Charles. You ought to try to put something together and come over and play to the Acadien Memories folks And so I did. Now, I don't do this for a living, and you can tell that, you can tell that. But I really enjoyed that. And then from there, since then, I've done 12 performances at museums in Maurice, Kaplan. We played at a place called Kelvin's in Abbeville, and that was with a band. And we've done it here, but all due to Mr. William suggesting that we put something like this together. So he's the guy that's really, I call him my producer and my agent. But we do this because things like this you should be proud of. Bobby Charles was a very, very unique individual. So for the last 10 years, what I've been doing is trying to research and find out as much as I could about him. And it's a very, very interesting story. One of the things that I found out is that he was followed and enjoyed by incredible, talented people already in the music business. So when you know that you've got people that are not only appreciative of the music, but friends with them, like Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan, Ray Charles, Keith Whitley, Fats Domino, Clarence Frogman Henry, Dr. John, and on and on and on. See, these people recorded Bobby Charles' written songs. And a lot of us don't know that because we just don't know it. You don't have a place where it's played on the radio. Occasionally some of this is played, but I thought that there are some younger people that don't know what was going on at that time, and that had a lot to do with why I did what I did. I want them to know that somebody from Abbeville, Louisiana, somebody from Vermilion Parish accomplished what he accomplished. And I've had the opportunity to do this with some great people, and I really enjoy that because I like to talk to people and find out where you're going, where you're coming from, and every once in a while I find out I'm related to y'all. But anyway, so having said that, what I'm going to do today is going to try to tell a few stories about Bobby Charles and do some of the music that he wrote, and then we're going to go ahead and go through his life. And when I'm done, if you have a question or you want to talk about any of this, I'm going to stay here and we can do that. But having said all that, I think it's time to get started here with maybe a little of the music. But you need to understand that this first piece now, I'm going to take you back in time to the early 1950s. And at that time, Bobby Charles had already decided that music was something that he loved and enjoyed. And he played back then with a group called the Cardinals. And they were very popular. So Bobby had some entertainment footsteps that he took at an early age. When he was doing all of this, you figure like in 1953, he was 14, 15 years old. And he would listen to his parents' radio, but they only had one station, and that was a station that had French music, and the announcers all spoke French. And so that was part of the routine that household had. So Bobby one day goes in there and he starts fooling around when his parents aren't there, and he turns to a station and he's hearing somebody by the name of Fats Antoine Domino. And he fell in love with his music, just like that. So that gave him the background and led him into doing some of the things that we're going to talk about. But he wrote a song, and he wanted to write a song for Fats. And so he wrote this song called See You Later, Alligator. And the reason why he wrote that is because he had in his mind of presenting to his idol something that he could do. And the way that that took place was one evening after Bobby's band played and they were in a cafe, and Bobby got ready to leave and he looked at one of his players and he said, "See you later, alligator." And there was a young gal that raised her hand and she said, "After a while, crocodile." He said, "What did you say?" "After a while, crocodile." So he got in his car, someone was driving him, and he started thinking about it. When he got home in 15 minutes, he wrote, "See you later, alligator." That's recognized as one of the huge, huge pieces of music that helped kick rock and roll off in the mid-50s. Bobby Charles recorded that, and he did it with his own band. A month after he recorded that, there was another group that recorded, that was Bill Haley and the Comets. Bill Haley and the Comets at that time were recognized as some of the inventors of the rock and roll music, rhythm and blues of rock and roll, whatever you want to call it. And he went ahead and recorded it. Well, it went boom, all the way to the top. "See you later, alligator." And from that, Bobby got a lot of exposure. Now, you got to remember now, he's not 30 years old. He's still 15 years old when that happens. And all of a sudden, there's a big interest in him. And there was a disc jockey from Lake Charles that heard the song, and he called people that he knew that were in the record business. And one of the groups that he knew were the Chess Brothers out of Chicago. And they listened to the comments that the disc jockey gave. But he said, "We'd like to hear him." So they put him on the phone and put Bobby on the phone, and he sang. And they loved him. And they signed a contract with him. Here he is, maybe 16 by now. And they call him and say, "You need to come up to Chicago." Well, Chess Records, you know, I guess I better back up, because to make this more emphatic, I want to play a little bit of "See You Alligator," but I got to take a sip of water. I'm taking some medication, and it dries me out, so once in a while I'm going to have to take a sip of water. Sometimes it feels like a rabbit got caught in my mouth. Anyway.
A little bit.
Well, I saw my baby walking with another man today. I saw my baby walking with another man today. When I asked her what's the matter, this is what I heard her say. "See you later, alligator." After a while, crocodile. "See you later, alligator." "See you later, alligator. Can't you see you in my way now? Don't you know you cramp my style?" Well, I thought of what you told me, and it nearly made me lost my head. I thought of what you told me, nearly lost my head. But the next time that I saw her, reminded her of what she said. "See you later, alligator." After a while, crocodile. "See you later, alligator." After a while, crocodile. Don't you know you're in my way now? Can't you see you cramp my style? She said, "I'm sorry, pretty daddy. You know my love for you is true. I'm sorry, pretty daddy. You know my love for you is true. Won't you please forgive me and love me like I love you too?" He said, "Wait a minute, baby. I know you meant it just to play. Wait a minute, baby. I know you meant it just to play. But you know, you really hurt me. And to you, this is what I have to say. See you later, alligator. Out the wild crocodile. See you later. So long. Goodbye. See you later, alligator.
Yeah.
So that's what got the young man started. And he presented See You Later, Alligator to his number one, his hero, Fats Domino, maybe at the airport club in Abbeville. But when he did it, he was so proud that he got close to him, where he could actually talk to him. And he handed him the song. And Fats looked at it and he says, well, thank you, but I ain't singing no song about no alligator. So Bobby said, well, okay, I understand. Well, what happens is, Bobby Charles, remember now, we're going to go back to Chess. And Chess said, Bobby, we want you to come up here. And he signed a contract, and he's 16 years old, and he's at the office of Chess Records, one of the biggest labels in the United States at that time. Their history was all black rhythm and blues. They were ahead of Motown. Motown, that's what got Motown going. So he flies to Chicago, and they said, when you get here, look for somebody with a sign with your name on it. And so he got there, and one of the Chess brothers had a sign that says, Bobby Charles. And Bobby Charles walks up to him and he says, I'm Bobby Charles. And the Chess brother says, you can't be. And Bobby Charles says, well, I guess I can, because I'm telling you the truth. And the Chess brother says, ooh, my brother is going to really, now I'm not going to use all the words he used, because you don't need to hear that again. But they were totally surprised, to say the least, that Bobby was white. Because his way of singing with a raspy voice, they thought for sure he had to be black. And when he sang, that had to be black. Well, it wasn't. So he said, well, I'm not, and I don't know what I can do about it. They said, well, what we're going to do is you're going to be part of our tour. At that time, they were touring all over the United States. Remember now, this is black only, with one white guy. And they started thinking, well, while we're traveling, how are we going to get this done? Because back in those days, hotels for whites didn't allow blacks, but black hotels didn't allow whites. So they had a little predicament. And one of the musicians said, I got this figured out, it ain't going to be no problem. So he goes outside, he comes back in, he's got a big old duffel bag. Everybody's looking at him, he says, turns to Bobby, he says, Bobby, get in that duffel bag. And Bobby said, what? He said, get in that duffel bag. He got in the duffel bag, then he zipped it up, reached over, and he threw Bobby inside of the duffel bag over his shoulder. And he turned around and said, that's how we're going to get Bobby Charles into this place. Well, anyway, it was a great experience for him. He stayed with them for probably about a year, and he learned an awful lot. He wrote some music and associated with some of the greatest musicians, Ella James, just on and on and on, all of the black groups that were playing at that time. So, but after about a year, he decided it was time to go home, and he went home. And lo and behold, Fats Domino's playing at a club again in Abbeville. Only this time, Fats Domino sent somebody out in the crowd because he heard that Bobby Charles was here and he wanted to talk to him. So the guy comes out, gets Bobby Charles, bring him into his room, And Fats looked at him and he said, Bobby, I sure wish I'd have done that song about that alligator. So they kind of talked about that for a little while, but Fats told him, you need to come to New Orleans. You need to stay with me. You need to write music. We're going to have a great time. And Bobby looked at him and he said, I'm honored, Fats. I'm honored that you asking me to do this. But he said, I got a problem. He said, I don't have a car. I don't know how I could get there other than walking.
There you go.
Well, he gets in a car with his buddy, who I still think was Warren Storm. And I interviewed Warren for a lot of these stories. Warren's memory is good, but he said, I'm not quite sure if that's what really happened, but I like that story, so let's keep on going. Anyway, Bobby decided that there was something that he could do, and when it hit him about walking to New Orleans, this is the song that he wrote for Fats, and it was recorded in 1960. This time I'm walking to New Orleans, walking to New Orleans. Gonna need 2 pair of shoes when I get through walking these blues. Get back to New Orleans. I got my suitcase in my hand. Ain't that a shame? I'm leaving here today. I'm going back home to stay. I'm walking to New Orleans. You used to be my honey. Till you spent all my money. No use for you to cry. I'll see you by and by. I'm walking to New Orleans. I got no time for talking. I got to keep on walking. New Orleans is my home. That's the reason why I'm going. I'm walking to New Orleans. I'm walking to New Orleans. Now what's interesting about that song, that still is recognized as the song that depicts someone that was from that city and appreciated it and had to go back. And one of the writers said that he, in his mind, could image someone walking along Highway 90 from Abbeville to New Orleans. And to this day, that song is still as popular as it ever was. I know y'all remember that one, huh?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and that was probably the song that kicked off the relationship between Fats Domino and Bobby Charles, because he started to write, and Bobby Charles' heyday of being involved with New Orleans music was the 1960s, the early 60s, 61 to 62. So, 61 or 62, his reputation as being a songwriter took off, and I mean like a rocket. And it was also the music that he was writing at that time. A lot of people give credit to him for what has developed over a period of time in that swamp pop music. And he's given a lot of credit for helping develop it. But he was writing primarily for Fats at that time, but there were other people that he wrote for, and we'll go into them. But there's one song that he did, and I think that this has a lot to do with when someone says they talk about swamp pop music. It's a song called It's Rayne. He wrote this in 1961. And you ever get a chance, Austin City Limits, they have archives, and you can go up and pull anything you want. If you pull up Fats Domino and this song, you see New Orleans rhythm and blues followed by swamp pop later on at its best when Fats Domino's playing at Austin City Limits, because the camera is right on Fats when it starts, and he's, as usual, sitting at the piano, and then as the song goes on, the camera starts panning his band. He must have had 15 horns. And that's what drew up that kind of music. You know, we all like those horns. Well, when that camera backs up like that, you start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think he had 10 horns lined up there. So anyway, if you get a chance, pull it up, because it's this song that he did. It keeps raining and raining, tears from my eyes, since you've been gone, all I do is cry. Somebody help me, somebody help me, oh, can't you see, my baby done left me. She left me reeling and rocking, walking the floor. Left a note last night, not coming back no more. It keeps raining and raining, tears from my eyes, since you've been gone, all I do is cry. All I do is cry. All I do is cry.
That's so good.
Thank you. At that same era, Bobby was doing stuff back to back, and that's when Fats, there wasn't very many weeks that went by that Fats didn't have something that was in the top 5 songs in the nation. So here's another one that he did at that same time. This was in 1962. The first time I heard this, actually, no, it goes back to 1960, and the reason why I know that is because the first time I heard this, and the name of it is Before I Grow Too Old. You remember that one, huh?
Yes.
Well, I was 15 years old when I heard that. And I remember thinking, why would anybody worry about before I grow too old? You know, that doesn't make any sense. Well, I'm almost 80 now. And now I understand what he was trying to say. Anyway, I'm going to try to do a little bit of it for you. I'm going to go out dancing every night. Gonna see all the city lights. I'm gonna do everything I've been told, but I got to hurry up before I grow too old. Gonna take a trip around the world. I'm gonna kiss all the pretty girls. I'm gonna do everything I've been told. Got to hurry up before I grow too old. I'm gonna buy everything that ain't been sold. I got to hurry up before I grow too old. Gonna do a lot of things I know is wrong. I hope I'm forgiven before I'm gone. Take a lot of prayer to save my soul, but I got to hurry up before I grow too old.
Yep.
Thank y'all.
Who recorded that?
Ma'am?
Was that Fats Domino?
Fats Domino did. And not only Fats Domino, but a lot of the musicians in this part of the world, whenever they would do an album, they always went back to something like that. But Fats, the last 2 songs that I did, in fact 3, Walking to New Orleans, It's Raining and Raining, and Before I Grow Too Old. So that put Bobby Charles in a different stage. He was looked at as what he was at that time, one of the top songwriters in America. And what I like about this is what I told you about me being 15 and listening to that. That's the truth. And when you hear music like that, what it does a couple of things for you. One, it works over the connections that we have in our brain, and that's the truth. That's the truth. But it also reminds you of some times when we were a little bit younger, and how much we enjoyed the music of that era. And what's also impressive is that that music of that era never goes over.
No.
Never goes over. You can still hear it today. You can go down to Henderson or the Rockin' Bowl, and we've got bands that play all kinds of different music, but they still go back to this music. That's what's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So how are we doing so far? I don't
good.
see anybody sleeping.
No, very good. Very good.
What's that?
Marvelous.
Marvelous.
It's marvelous.
Say it one more time.
You can hear me, you just be kind of
You're right. So tell me one more time.
You're marvelous. Like that.
Magnifique.
No vodka.
Ah,
No
good man.
vodka. My wife says, you don't have to tell them that. They know you're not drinking. I said, how do you know I'm not drinking? So anyway, let's move on now. We're going to go into, and I used to be able to remember all of this, but Bobby Charles, he kept everything in his head in a unique way. And I realized real quickly that I can't do that. But
Did Bobby Charles speak any French?
yes,
He did.
yes, there's a song that he did on his last, not his last album, but one of the albums that I'm going to get ready to get to, and I'll talk about it. But it's the Champs de Eiffel Tower.
Champs-Élysées, yeah.
You can tell me with my French. But that's the only song that I know of that he spoke French in.
Okay.
And but when you listen to some of his music, he's got accordions. He's got something that could easily be moved into Cajun French music. That's my understanding. Now, in 1962, Bobby Charles wrote a song called "The Jealous Kind," and he wrote that song for Clarence Frogman Henry. Does anybody remember Clarence Frogman Henry?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think I see the heads, and everybody does, because in 1955, Frogman Henry did the song about I'm a lonely boy,
Yeah.
I'm a lonely girl, I'm a lonely frog, and everybody knew who he was after that. Well, Bobby Charles in 1962, he wrote a song, and it really never really took off. So it was kind of set aside. And let me get over to this. It was set aside, but in 1972, it was recorded by an Englishman, and the name of it was The Jealous Kind. In 1977, the great Ray Charles decided he wanted to do an album, and he wanted to do something that was different. and not music put together by publishers or executives of record stations. He wanted to pick all of the pieces for this particular album. It was 1977. So he did. Here's some of the authors of that, songwriters that he selected. George and Ira Gershwin, Rodgers and Hammerstein, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and a young man from Abbeville, Louisiana, Bobby Charles. Now, that to me really says something about how well recognized he was in the talent that he had. Ray Charles went ahead and he recorded it. And if you get a chance, here again, I refer to YouTube because that's where you can listen to a lot of Bobby Charles music on YouTube at no charge. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But anyway, this is called Don't Be Angry If I Seem Rude Each Time We Meet. Someone that you once knew said used to be oh so close to you. It's just that I'm so afraid someone might steal you away and I lose my mind. I can't help myself the way I feel sometimes. Yes, I'm the jealous kind. I was alright when I first met you. Girl, I didn't mind. Now things have changed. I'm not the same. Oh, and so I find I want you all to myself. Can't stand it with you with nobody else. You must forgive me for the way I act sometimes. Guess I'm the jealous kind. If you only knew how much it hurts to hear you say how you forget when before we met, those were the good old days. Why must you hurt me so? I can't stand it no more, and I'm really trying. I can't help myself the way I act sometimes. Guess I'm the jealous kind. Guess I'm the jealous kind. What's interesting about that song, and I told you about Bobby Charles being one of the songwriters that Ray Charles appreciated, and that's why he did the album. But it's interesting that someone who's at that level, who's recognized as a genius, could appreciate something by a young man who most people can only identify with one song, See You Later, Alligator. But there's a lot more that's behind that, and I hope some of this comes out to you so that you can appreciate his music and listen to his music. Like I said, I'm going to talk a little bit later about how you can get some of those things, but we're going to move on now. That era was 1962, and when Ray Charles did that album, it was 1977, but I'm going to go back to 1965, 1972 era. Those were rough times for Bobby Charles. Bad deals, bad contracts. A lot of musicians in this part of the world have run into this problem because when they start off, they're interested in recording. That's what they want to do. So the fine print and all the details left in somebody else's hand. And many, many times, Bobby Charles ran into that problem. And that's one of the reasons why later on in his life, he became a recluse. He didn't want to associate with anyone, and he really didn't care because he got so upset with some of the ways that he was treated. And he's not unlike a lot of people that ran into that problem. And there's a fellow from Rayne, Louisiana, who had that same problem. His name is Joel Sonia. These guys, you making deals with people like RCA, they are in business to steal. They have taken it to a new level because they got a bevy of lawyers. Guys like Joel didn't, and neither did Bobby Charles. But Bobby, whenever he ran into something that was a bit of a problem, he always seemed to figure out some sort of way to write a song about it. And he wrote this next song. It wound up being presented and some pretty big issues. This song caught the attention of blues players. And blues players several times did this Bobby Charles song on the Johnny Carson show, on the Letterman show, so it got national attention. And this is one that I can imagine Bobby Charles sitting down and as aggravated as he got with what was going on in the music industry, that he would write something like this. They take your love and your money, sugar and your honey, skinny or fat. Why people act like that? They take your house and your home, the flesh from your bones, shirt off your back. Why people act like that? Take your phone and your clock, everything you got, laugh behind your back. Why people act like that? Why people lie like that? Take your love and your money, sugar and your honey, take your skinny or fat. Why people act like that? I don't know why they act like that, but some people do act like that. We know that. We know it, understand it.
Green.
Anyway, how we doing? Y'all okay?
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. I'll tell you what, it's hard to perform when someone's snoring. That reminds me,
They always out of key, right?
yeah, you're right. Well, I'm going to tell you this real quickly. I proudly sing in the St. Pius choir. And about a month or so ago, there was a young lady, I didn't recognize her, she joined the choir. And then I quickly realized she was blind. She couldn't see. Now that's a tough deal, because let me tell you, I didn't realize how difficult it could be to do some of the real highbrow spirituals. And I love the challenge, and boy, they've got some great singers that are in that choir. But when I saw her, it made me feel, because my hearing's not very good and I can't follow directions, so I gotta see what's going on here, gotta do all of that. And then I look at her and I see what she's doing, and it made me say, shut up and move on. You know, you can figure this out. So I was really impressed with her. And one day I wanted to talk to her, but I didn't want to bolt in front of her, since, you know, she's unable to see where this voice is coming from. But I got on the side of her after we were finishing up the Sunday choir mass, and I said, Katie, my name's David, and I'm in the bass section behind you. And I want to tell you how much we appreciate you joining our choir and welcome. And she said, thank you. And I said, you can identify me because I'm in the bass section and I'm the guy who's never on key and I sing loudly. And so she got a giggle out of that, so the point was made. But I do admire anybody that can do that. And when you see somebody do that, it reminds you, you think you've got some issues.
Yeah.
You don't
Sorry.
have issues.
Look around.
That's why it's important. Keep your eyes open, see what's going on, and don't feel sorry for yourself. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Anyway,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
okay, now I'm going to go back in time again. 1961, when Bobby reestablished the career of a guy named Clarence Frogman Henry, who was still living off of his 1955 hit, I'm a Lonely Frog. What had happened was Bobby wrote a song for him, and it did what Bobby Charles wanted it to do. It was a huge hit. And this song is called I Don't Know Why I Love You, But I Do. Now I see the heads because that is the epitome of a hit song and the tremendous success that he had with it. He made some nice money off of that. Because you know when you record something like that, you've got residuals that come back in royalties, and that's what Bobby had going for him. But this song was written in 1961, but it really got much more attention in 30 years later, because I Don't Know Why I Love You became part of the song list for one of the most popular movies that we all ever saw, and it was called Forrest Gump. And if you look at the playlist of the songs, they're all primo. Well, this song was right up there. So I'm going to try to do a little bit of it for you. I don't know why I love you, but I do. I don't know why I cry so, but I do. I only know I'm lonely, that I want you only. I don't know why I love you, but I do. I can't sleep nights, I feel so restless. Don't know what to do, I feel so helpless. And since you've been away, I cry both night and day. I don't know why I love you, but I do. My days are so lonely, my nights are so blue. I don't know how I manage, but I do. Each night I sit alone and tell myself I will fall in love with someone else. I know I'm wasting time, but I got to clear my mind. I don't know why I love you, but I do. I don't know why I love you, but I do. man, still going on. When I take a sip of water, it reminds me of one time where I got started doing this, and y'all may have heard this, but forgive me, I'm going to tell it again. I used to do shows for my mother and daddy when they were in nursing homes or assisted living homes. And one time I was finishing up and I saw this lady coming towards me, and she had a walker. And I'm thinking, oh, she's probably going to come tell me how much she enjoyed the show, you know? That's what I'm thinking. And I noticed in her hand, though, she had one of those little plastic coin purses. And I said, oh, she's going to try to tip me. I got to figure out how to handle this without embarrassing myself or her. So when she got close enough, I leaned over and I said, yes, ma'am. She opened up that little coin purse and took out some change, and she said, hey, go get me a Pepsi.
It's all relative, isn't it?
Your balloon burst. Anyway, I had a lot of fun doing that, doing those at assisted living homes. But now, okay. This song here is one that was written, and it got a Grammy nomination. And it was recorded by Roddy Romero, Hub City All-Stars. It was a Grammy-nominated song, and it's an example of Bobby Charles' music writing in the early 60s, but that music doesn't go away. It comes back. So Roddy recorded it and did a great job with it. I hope I can give y'all something that's not too out of key. It's called I Hope. And this is kind of a good example of Bobby Charles' writing. It's not complicated. It's far from being complicated, but it came from his heart. He always said, if you're going to do something with music and your heart's not in it, don't do it. Sometime, somewhere, we're gonna meet again, I know, and I won't love you anymore. I hope somewhere, sometime, you're gonna need me like I'm needing you right now. I hope people dancing, let the music play. Tonight's my night and I want to dance the night away. 'Cause tomorrow you'll be gone. So long, goodbye. I know that I am gonna cry, but I'll forget you by and by. I hope I think that's a pretty good, thank you. A pretty good example of music that was written some time back, but it always remains popular, and the popularity was that it got a Grammy nomination. That says it all right there. Now, later on, after Bobby had moved from, once he came back from Chicago, and he spent time in Louisiana, from there he went to Nashville. And in Nashville, he did some of the same work that he had been doing, writing songs, and from Nashville he moved up to New York State. not New York City, but upper state. And because of that, he was associated with a group of musicians that he became very, very close to. When I started this, I told you of some of the friends that he had who are icons in the music business. And this all occurred when he was in Nashville, but also much more so when he was in New York. And in New York, this is where he became friends with people like Dr. John, Bob Dylan, and a group called The Band. The Band was an incredibly popular Canadian rock and roll group. And Bobby got close to them where they actually recorded some music. There's some album work that was done. And when he was there, he met a fellow by the name of Albert Grossman. Albert Grossman was a heavy-duty, powerful person in the music business. He was an agent, manager, and he managed Bob Dylan, Peter, Paul, and Mary, The Band, Simon and Garfunkel. That's pretty strong stuff.
Yeah.
So Bobby, obviously, when he wrote this next song, I think he had Albert Grossman in mind. He's got all the money. He's got all the money. He's got all the money. And he won't give me none. He's got all the power. He's got all the power. He's got all the power. And he won't give me none. He's got all the whiskey. He's got all the whiskey. He's got all the whiskey. And he won't give me none. He's got all the women. He's got all the women. He's got all the women. And he won't give me one. And he won't give me one. I think that was Albert Grossman. If you were to find out how much money Albert Grossman made off of the people that I said he managed, you could not possibly guess how much. It was incredible. And just one other comment about Bobby Charles, which made him unique, is the way that he wrote his music. Most songwriters, they've got their music laid out, it's charted, they go into a studio, they share it with the musicians, and then they go into recording sessions. Bobby Charles was not like that. When a song hit him, the complete song would come to him. And he would spend time working on it, but it was all in his head. And that's the reason why when he recorded, he liked to have the same kind of musicians that knew him and knew what direction he was going in. But everything that he did, he kept it up here. It was in his head, which is amazing. He didn't play an instrument. You can't find songwriters that can't play a guitar or a piano to accompany themselves when they're creating something. He didn't do that. He did not like to perform. He didn't like being the front man. And now that's very rare because those are the guys that make the money. That he wanted to be recognized as a songwriter, and he was recognized as a songwriter. But he left a legacy of untapped talent. And instead of promoting himself, and his music towards the outside world, he kept it all within himself. And that's when he became Shelley. And one of the things that happened, that a young lady who happened to be his girlfriend at that time, she lives in Iraq, and I interviewed her. She said that there was a movie that was made, and it was called The Last Waltz. And that movie was written for this group called the band that was getting ready to shut it down. So The Last Waltz meant their last performance. They had some of the greatest performers in the world in that playlist, and that included Bobby Charles. Bobby Charles was invited, so he was thrilled. And so anyway, the movie was made, and all of the individual stars that were there, they all had their piece of the movie, with the exception of one person, and it was Bobby Charles. He was excluded, and there's kind of different answers as to why that took place, but because he wasn't a part of that and didn't get the recognition, that set him back. And that caused a lot of turmoil and some problems that he had. I want to mention to you, though, that, you know, some people think that Bobby Charles may have passed away a pauper, and that wasn't the case at all. Bobby Charles is represented to this day by an attorney in Abbeville named Charles Saunier. Charles Saunier is the trustee of the Bobby Charles Foundation, which accounts for pretty close so far to $400,000 that is donated to the University of Louisiana at Lafayette for music scholarships. So Bobby wasn't flamboyant, and he certainly didn't live a flamboyant life, but he has left something. And the ability to go back like Mr. Saunier has, it's a shame that Mr. Saunier wasn't Bobby's attorney from the beginning, because it would have been a totally different picture. He only came in the last maybe 15 years of his life, but and I asked Mr. Saunier, how did that relationship develop? And as it turns out, he and Bobby Charles grew up next to each other. He said they were friends since they were 5 years old. And it's he feels the same way, that he would have cherished the ability to represent him during those tough times, but he didn't. And anyway, he still is the chairman of that foundation, and has been recognized as one of the most significant foundations tied in with the music at the music school at UL. So I wanted to make sure and tell you about that, because a lot of people don't realize that he's still to this day contributing, still to this day. Let me see here. One of the things that some folks know about, some folks don't know about, is the residents of Abbeville, that when Bobby did either live on the river or in his place on Holly Beach, that he had some of the biggest recording stars in the history of music visit him, and they were close friends. Bob Dylan, Willie Nelson, on and on and on. So Bobby Charles was well respected by some very, very influential and popular people. When he was doing some traveling, one of the things that happened when he was in Nashville is he became very, very close to Chris Christopherson. And Chris Christopherson's rated one of the top songwriters, country music, country pop music. And Bobby had gotten cross-threaded in Nashville, so he felt it was time for him to move on. And in his conversations with Chris Christopherson, it became clear that Christopherson felt like he needed to move on too. So Bobby wrote this song. And this song is very special. The classic country people love to do this song. Keith Whitley recorded it, Rita Coolidge recorded it, Chris Christopherson. But the best recognition it got was from 3 women that toured the United States with their country music show. It was a threesome made up of Laurie Morgan. She used to play big time over here in Kaplan with her ex-husband, Pam Tillis, and Alison Krauss. Between those 3, that's 37 Grammys. So that tells you something. One of the songs that they loved to do was the song that Bobby wrote for Chris Christopherson. It's called Tennessee Blues. So I'm going to try to do a little bit of it for you. If I had my way, I'd leave here today. I'd move in a hurry. I'd find me a place where I could stay and not have to worry. Place I'd feel loose, place I could move these Tennessee blues. I'd find me a spot on some mountain top with no one around me. Valleys and streams, birds in the trees, lakes that surround me. Place I'd feel loose, place I could lose these Tennessee blues. A place to forget all my regrets and keep just the good times. Place I could sleep, nothing but peace, feel free at all times. Place I'd feel loose, place I could lose these Tennessee blues. Place I could lose these Tennessee blues. Isn't that a pretty song? And by the way, but there were a lot of people that told Bobby Charles that he was wasting his time writing music with rhythm and blues as the background or rock and roll. He should have been a country writer. And he probably could have done very well then. That's just a little bit of an example. And when you have that trio of folks that are highlighting your song, that doesn't hurt by any means. This song was written in conjunction with one of the songwriters for the group, the band. And his name was Rick Danko. He's in the Hall of Fame, great writer, great musician. And what happened was when Bobby was there, they got together and they wrote this song. And this song, just now, within the last 2 months or so, the estate of Rick Danko, he's passed away, gave Bobby Charles' estate full rights, which means anything that's developed from this music goes to that foundation. And that's good to hear. And the name of this one that they wrote was called Small Town Talk. And somebody asked Bobby, is this about Abbeville? And he said, not necessarily. He said it's about all small towns. So I'm going to try to do a little bit of it for you. It's all small town talk, you know how people are. Can't stand to see someone else doing what they want to do, and it's small town talk. Tell a lot of lies. Some people crazy never realize they're sinking. We're all the same people trying to make a living. And we're trying to make something work. Who are we to judge one another? That could cause a lot of hurt. You can't believe everything you hear, and only half of what you see. If you're gonna believe in anyone, whoa, you gotta believe in me. Small town talk, well-known fact. Can't even know how much they react to what you're thinking. Small town talk, small town talk, small town talk.
Is that what it is, David?
Thank you. Some folks have asked this question, and I'm glad they did, because I did some more research and found out what they were interested in was valid. They wanted to know if Bobby Charles ever met Ray Charles. Not Ray Charles, Elvis Presley. And in fact, he did meet with Elvis. He met with Elvis when Elvis was playing the Paramount Theater in New York City. And he never really told a lot of people everything that happened in that conversation, but one of the things that did come out of it, he said Elvis told him that be on guard for fame. And he kind of shook his head and he said, why are you saying that? And he said, because it's a two-edged sword. Because everybody in the entertainment business, artists, musicians, whatever, they crave for fame. But sometimes when you get it, you find out there's other things that go along with it that are not what you think. They're not as good as you think. And the example he used, he said, I can't go across the street and get a hamburger, you know? And Bobby told him, he said, well, I don't know if I'll ever get that big, but he understood what he was telling him. And what's interesting is that some of the issues that Elvis later on had to deal with, so did Bobby Charles. So there was a connection there. But anyway, because of that, he wrote this last tune. And this is, let me see here. This is on the album called Last Train to Memphis. Take the last train to Memphis. Get on board. The king is gone, but he still lives on deep in the heart of the people. Take the last train to Memphis. Gonna have a good time. Memphis sits on the top of the river, right on the Arkansas line. Take the last train to Memphis. Put your dancing shoes on. Got a lot of good music in Memphis. That's why she's the home of the blues. Ride the eagle, whoa, get on board. ride the eagle all night long. Next stop, Graceland's door. Ride the eagle. Take the last train to Memphis. Ride that eagle. The king is gone, but he still lives on, deep in the heart of the people.
Okay.
Well, listen, thank y'all. Thank you very, very much.
Was that the last song he wrote?
No,
No.
no. This is one of the last songs. This next one is one of the last songs that he did. And before I do this, I want to tell you that there is a documentary that Mr. Saunier has produced, and it's finally completed. It is a fascinating story of Bobby Charles and the people that knew him. The interviews are incredible. I had the honor of watching with Mr. Saunier about a month ago. And I tell you, whenever this does come out, you need to make every effort you can to see it. The world premiere, I think, is going to be in Abbeville, and right now they're working through some last-minute details, but in the very, very near future, that is going to be available for the public audience. And when that does, make sure that you make every attempt to see it, because it's worthwhile. It's very, very interesting. And the name of that documentary is I Must Be in a Good Place Now. And this has to do with the latter songs that Bobby Charles wrote. Wild apple trees blooming all around. I must be in a good place now. Sunshine coming through rainbow-colored sky paints pretty pictures in my mind. Oh, what a good day to go fishing. Catch the sunset in the hills. Dream of yesterday and tomorrow, and hope that you'll be with me still. Saw a butterfly and I named it after you. Love is all around and all I see is you. I must be in a good place now. I must be in a good place now. Thank y'all. What I want to make sure and mention to you is that if you have access to YouTube, which is music, pull up Bobby Charles, because you'll see a listing of a lot of the songs that we did here. And you hear them done by different people. You'll actually hear Bobby Charles sing some of it, but it's worth your time and effort to do that, because he had 8 albums filled with music in the Bobby Charles style. And the people that recorded with him were the greatest. Willie Nelson, he recorded at Willie Nelson's studio, Dr. John, and many, many other talented music people. So do yourself a favor and check that out. And whenever the documentary is going to come out with the premiere, I'm going to let William know, and he can get the word to y'all. But anyway, I appreciate y'all letting me come over here and warble a little bit. I always have fun when I come to Rayne, Louisiana, so I want to tell y'all thank y'all for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Dave.
Okay.
Let's see, I think there's one question.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You said he had a girlfriend. Was he ever married and had children?
Yes. Yes, he did have, he was married twice. He had 3 children. And I think they were all boys. I know 2 of them were. And when I did the museum in Maurice, I noticed when I got into the museum, there was some reserved seats on the front row. And I was thinking, wow, I wonder who that's for. Well, they open the back door up and this lady comes in and they help her to the chair. It was Bobby Charles' sister and his niece and his sister's granddaughter. So I really enjoyed and didn't know who they were until afterwards. And afterwards, I got to sit down and talk with his sister, and she made me feel good. She said, we really enjoyed listening to you tell the stories we never heard. We didn't know some of those things about Bobby Charles. So that made me feel good, because that's what I'm trying to do with this whole scenario. I don't make any money off this. It's just something that's fun and enjoyable to do, and he deserves that. When you drive into, they finally gave him some recognition. When you drive into Abbeville, they've got a real pretty sign on the outskirts, and it says, Abbeville, Louisiana, Vermilion Parish, home of legendary songwriter Bobby Charles. So, you know, they deserve that. He deserves that. He deserves that. So, anyway, anybody else with a question?
The Fats Domino song, Blueberry Hill, you didn't have anything to do with that?
No.
No, that was somebody else.
Fats was so popular, he had problems with people hitting him with new stuff. And but Bobby and Fats Domino became extremely close. And there's a gentleman from south of Abbeville that knew Bobby Charles real well, and he told me a story of one time they went to Signorelli's, and he said, I can't remember who was playing there, but he said Bobby invited him and one other fellow to just take a quick break and go to this black club where Fats Domino was playing. And this guy told me the story. He said, when we walked in there, he said, you should have seen Fats Domino's reaction when he saw Bobby Charles. It was like 2 brothers that hadn't seen each other in years and years. And he welcomed them and shut the show down. That's how well established Bobby Charles was. And, you know, I like that story about fame, but it's sad in one way. That's just the way life is, though, that Bobby didn't want to perform. And had he been willing to perform, there's no telling what would have happened with more exposure and his talent. But several people tried to get him into, like, the story of the legends. He is in the Music Hall of Fame, but that wasn't his deal. He just wouldn't, he would tell people, yeah, okay, I'll be there, but never did show up. He just, he lost a lot of confidence in mankind. But right now, when I mentioned to you about I Must Be in a Good Place Now, the documentary, you know why it's being held up? Record labels wants a bigger piece.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what they're fighting now. And that's been a struggle, and his whole life is like that. But anyway.
So when did he pass away?
12 years ago. He was born in 19